Bernadette Mayer's Midwinter Day is our remarkable subject matter for this week as we kind of rethink the end of the light, the winter solstice, and that day where the light shuts down and disappears, and we begin to move towards spring. Mayer's poem, this long poem, is really epic in its energies. Although it's a different kind of epic than what you might imagine from the Odyssey or the Iliad. Here you have a more local epic, in a sense, an epic that is drawn within a domestic space, within a home, within a town, and it is a really remarkable artistic act that Mayer does here. A whole poem written on December 22nd, 1978, a book-length poem written in a home that she shares with Louis Walsh and her children on Main Street in Lenox, Massachusetts. So the act of the poem itself is epic. And also we can kind of, within our course focus, is to kind of think about the ends that are present here, particularly the way that the human world is measured against the light as the poem grows from here. As Mayer writes, "Nothing happens. Let's go over it again. If we're all wrong about everything, the life is so short and the craft is so long to learn, the essay so hard, so sharp, the conquering, the dreadful joy that passes so quick, and then being left alone again. What I mean is, love astonishes my feeling with its wonderful working so ardently, so painfully, that when I'm thinking about such certainty, I don't know, like the earth, if I'm floating or sinking." And despite the poet's sense of floating and sinking here, the poem is drawn to a specific place. The poem is tied to this locus, and within that tightly defined locus, you have this great intimacy that develops between the voice of the poet and the interlocutor, the you that she speaks to throughout the poem here. And it moves from reader to Louis Walsh, her partner. Her children come into the poem, Sophia and Marie. All the people on my list, as she says. So there's this great point of direct address that happens in the poem as she works through one subject after another and walks you through this very specific place on this very specific day in this very specific time of the year as the light fades. As she writes, "We speed it up, but everything is slow, like the Straits of Gibraltar. Before I was being at the understood place, existing or happening now, I guess I was in process, and in contrast with past, and future, today I'm the present writer. At the present time the snow has come. At a time very close to the present, I want to get a tight pair of pants and dance with you with things as they are." That sense of being present in the poem, the voice that emerges from that, again, is really remarkable, right? Because you move between these larger abstractions, of the poet trying to define a voice within within a larger tradition, within all the kinds of poetic subjects that poets wrestle with time and love and disappearance and loss. And within that, though, Mayer crafts those subjects within her direct relationships with her partner, with the town that she's in, with the home that they share, and with you as reader, in a very kind of tightly defined moment. Again, as the light is disappearing. The light disappears throughout the book. It's interesting how time moves through this book. Again and again, you get a sense of return to the season of that you are in the midst of winter, and the light is passing, that you are in the shortest day of the year. In the end, you are marked by a shadow of ice, as she'll say. And I think that it's kind of interesting when you think about form here. This is free verse, but there are definite rhythms to the poem as she moves from section to section. Maybe you'll note how you think that the lines are measured. And I would say that the light's passing offers the poem a kind of measure here, that it gathers itself. The lines themselves are gathered against that passing light that she, seems to speed up at points when she realizes that light is passing, that the passing light offers a kind of density to the lines as time moves. And the sun comes out, she writes, and it's the end of the moon having piteously given its last quarter to the dawn, world's end, beginning of niggardly winter, the nadir of some relation to the culminating sun, intensest of storms to come, sickening holidays, cold rooms, and running out of money again, nothing to do but poetry, love letters, and babies, hope for spring. It's this sense of shortage, that time is passing, that light is passing, that gives it to the poem its urgency, that that connects the poet to the reader, that connects Meyer to this you that develops and is built throughout this long poem here. And that hope for spring, it's interesting because that hope is expressed, not in any kind of grand abstractions, but the poem's hope, works itself out in a very kind of local way, right? The myths that are built here are not of heroes and warriors, and great defining events, but through a web of personal references, friendships, and localities, of very close and domestic spaces. And so Meyer works through these very local things to craft this epic, this long poem in the passing light. So you get kind of a dream chronicle here, right? What she dreamed last night, dreams that are recalled. You get movies and their kind of mythic energies for Meyer as an artist and writer. You get a lot of lists in here. You get lists of children's books, lists of friends and their curiosities and the kinds of artistic projects that they're working through. So lists become kind of a form itself here in the poem. You get moments of passing light and darkness, as Meyer recalls them on this day. And you get some moments of engagement of the non-human world here as well. In what ways is nature also passing for the poet? In what ways is human presence in nature passing with the light? These things kind of turn quickly in the poem. As she notes, this pile of beautiful ice, and last summer they even cut down the only blackberry bush in town, and the library had to lose its 2 dramatic elms. It's 12:15 p.m. Everything circumscribed, but what of nature's still around? No place any different but for the limits of fear and love. We see the whole town every day, 2 square blocks with alleys, shortcuts, the town clock and 2 weathercocks, the lemon tree, Siminis, the crazy horse, lilac park. It's almost like in this poem you get a Persephone myth kind of retold, right? That Persephone, is in this point of total lockdown, but not in Hades, but in this other kind of underworld, this kind of like close domestic space, this this town, where the underworld has kind of been turned upside down, and the underworld is present in the world, in the coldness and the disappearing light of midwinter, and Persephone is speaking to you out of this underworld, this very close underworld, like I said, this very familiar underworld that you might know from your own experience. And so you have this long poem here that has its own kind of setup, beginning and end, that's marked by a day, and the logopoeic dimensions of the poem, right? How the language works itself out on the page. It's a measure of time and passing light. That as she moves through points of transition in thought, as she moves from one space to another, mentally, physically, geographically within the poem, that she is speaking against this passing light. And that is kind of the real gesture in this poem, right? Is that how does the poet make sense of time passing, of language passing? As she'll note, what but the impulse to move and speak can change the world. And that's Meyer's final statement, in the poem in some ways, right? As she'll say, Hold still, the short light is old already. Everything for you is momentary. You may even whistle for a week or so. We've rearranged the day again into another formal order. I'm hungry at the wrong times like you, but I can't remember to stop to eat because you, like the light, are almost done. Formidable ordinary order to present the day with at least a little concentration on fierce love, working like slowly building a house, only adding to it in seasons when there's extra time. More for that than this continuous keep us warm, which the finished house will eventually do if only we had time to raise the roof.